many Star Trek fans do we have in here? Do we have any Trekkies? I've taken to quoting Captain Jean-Luc Picard, who was quoted as saying, "Things are only impossible until they're not." And in my mind, that certainly has related to high-speed rail over the years, to an extent, to ATNs and PRT over the years, that there's been an air of impossibility around them, that we have those detractors who remind us virtually every day that it costs too much, it's a boondoggle, it's not going anywhere, nobody wants to ride them, fill in the blank. And happily, I'm here to report that at least on the high-speed rail side, that's very far from the truth. We have, in fact, a going concern. The Phase 1 program that I'll outline for you here in a moment, from the Transbay Terminal in downtown San Francisco to LA Union Station in Anaheim, is either under construction or in full environmental review in both Northern and Southern California. And so happily, that vision, that notion, is closer to reality today than at any time in certainly the nation's history and especially California's history. But really, what are we trying to do? And I just want to give a quick overview, talk a little bit about our station links, how in one case it creates a tremendous opportunity for a PRT and ATN connection. In the name of full disclosure, prior to joining the authority, I was with the city of San Jose for almost 15 years and had the opportunity to work with the team that's been working on a PRT plan from Diridon Station to Mineta International Airport, and I'll touch on that in a moment. But what are we trying to do? We're trying to continue to sustain the 7th largest economy in the world, to put together the resources, the infrastructure resources that will allow us to sustain California economically. We're implementing a corridor that's roughly equivalent to the Northeast corridor between New York and Boston and New York and Washington. In California, it will certainly become a transformative investment, changing the way that people move around California, and really shrinking the state, connecting population centers, not just north and south, but really the Central Valley, connecting the Central Valley to the economic centers in both Northern and Southern California in a way that they've never had the opportunity to be connected before. We're often asked, and I actually have a slide on this, but we're often asked, why are we starting the project in the Central Valley? Why are we beginning construction in the Central Valley? If the Central Valley were a state, it would be the 12th largest state in the country. It would also be the poorest and have the worst air quality. And so there's a clear need to connect those population centers economically to Northern and Southern California to create a mobility option that's not available to them today. So a tremendous need in connecting the Central Valley to the rest of California. As most of you know, high-speed rail is operating quite effectively in the rest of the world. One of the many challenges that we face in California is that we're trying to implement a cutting-edge 21st century technology that's virtually 50 years old every place else. So over 3,600 high-speed train sets in operation, over 18,500 miles of high-speed rail in operation, 1.6 billion annual passengers being served by high-speed rail quite effectively and quite safely, importantly. The Shinkansen system that just celebrated their 50th anniversary has yet to have an operational fatality on high-speed rail in Japan. So clearly, a significant safety improvement for a mode like high-speed rail. So what drives the need for California? Trying to identify or really resolve issues that face us on a daily basis. The state will continue to grow, expected to be at 50 million by 2050. We have 6 of the top 30 most congested areas in the country here in California. So congestion continues to be an issue. In fact, the Silicon Valley Leadership Group, that's comprised of 400 of the largest companies in the Bay Area, their CEOs were recently surveyed, and those CEOs all rated traffic congestion as among the top 5 issues facing their company's ability to continue to be economically viable, to continue to operate and function effectively in California. So finding ways to get their people to work, to get them home in a timely manner, to move goods to market much more efficiently, is something that's on the minds of companies here in California. We have among the most congested short-haul airline routes between Northern and Southern California here in California. A lion's share of the flights from Bay Area airports, San Jose, Mineta, SFO, Oakland, all fly to Southern California airports, LAX, Ontario, Burbank, San Diego. So trying to, as has been the case in much of the rest of the world, as I'm sure my friend Eric Eidlin has shared with you or will share with you, that the impacts of high-speed rail between city pairs greatly reduces airline travel in those city pairs. So we have an opportunity to reduce that congestion in this very congested air corridor. And people immediately respond by saying, well, aren't the airlines up in arms about that? Aren't they upset that you're cutting into their business model? Well, the reality is it gives us an opportunity, it gives them an opportunity to change their business model. It gives them an opportunity to turn one of those short-haul flights into a long-haul flight, to take a flight from LAX to San Francisco and turn it into a flight from LAX to Chicago and Boston and Philadelphia and Washington, a flight that currently isn't available to travelers today. So it gives the airlines an opportunity. Another important opportunity for the airlines is that while the California High-Speed Rail Authority is responsible for building the high-speed system, it's not going to operate it. It'll be operated by a concessionaire, so it gives companies like Virgin Atlantic and Southwest and others an opportunity to consider not just being an airline, but a transportation company. And at the end of the day, whether you're riding on one of their trains or flying on one of their planes, it's who gets the ticket money from a business model standpoint. It creates an opportunity for them to consider that as an option to become a concessionaire. Air quality in California is a significant issue with legislative measures aimed at reducing greenhouse gas emissions significantly in the state. High-speed rail will be a clean, green, electric train system that will reduce greenhouse gas emissions in California by between 8.4 and 12.2 million metric tons every year. So significant air quality improvements. And most importantly, we're often challenged by the cost of an infrastructure project like high-speed rail. The current cost of the high-speed system, developing the high-speed system in California, is $67.4 billion. In order to provide the equivalent transportation capacity that is going to be provided by high-speed rail, we need to spend virtually twice that much to provide 4,300 new lane miles, 115 new airline gates, at least 4 new runways. And who thinks we're going to put a new runway in the Bay at SFO? Anyone? So clearly, significant impacts, and those investments would cost roughly $158 billion and provide absolutely none of the air quality improvements provided by high-speed rail. So the Phase 1 system is the blue that you see here, the extension from San Francisco south to LA Union Station and Anaheim, roughly a 520-mile segment. Phase 2 will extend from Merced to Sacramento in the north and from Los Angeles to San Diego in the south, making the entire system roughly 800 miles, right in the sweet spot for high-speed rail operation and high-speed city pairs around the world. We're also looking at a connection with the privately developed Express West system that expects to extend from the high desert to Las Vegas, over 19 million travelers a year on the I-15 corridor between the high desert and Vegas. So we're looking for ways to connect with Express West at the Palmdale station, so working with them. And as many of you know, the Chinese have certainly expressed an interest in the development of the Express West system, so we're trying to find a seamless connection there. You'll note the station cities that we have along the corridor. The high-speed system in California will have 8 of the top 10 most populous cities in California as station cities. The opportunity to create activity centers at each of those station locations, the opportunity to create important last-mile connections where systems like a PRT, ATN system would come to the fore, the opportunity to create options to connect more effectively to other regional rail systems and local bus and light rail systems. And part of that has been the investment that High-Speed Rail has made in other systems. Now, in terms of program milestones, we have $3.3 billion in federal funds, matched by $9 billion in Proposition 1A funds, the state bonds that were passed in 2008. Cap and trade funds, which are the fees paid by polluters for the privilege of polluting that go toward developing clean, green systems. High-Speed Rail receives 25% of cap and trade funds in California, roughly $500 million annually. We've also looked at the important element of private sector investment and participation in the development of the High-Speed Rail project. We recently sent out a request for expression of interest to the private sector and received 36 responses from the private sector with ideas on how they could partner with the state of California to develop the high-speed system as an investor, as a partner in the development of the statewide system, expediting the completion of the system and reducing the overall cost to taxpayers as the system is developed. We have environmental clearances for the Central Valley section, which is currently under construction. The first 4 construction packages are either underway or about to be underway, so we have very serious construction activity in Central California, extending from roughly the city of Merced south to Bakersfield. Let's see. In Northern California, though it's come together a little bit here, in Northern California, we're about to complete environmental review from San Francisco all the way to the Central Valley Wise. That box you see here is where the Bay Area section will come together with the statewide system that's currently under construction. And the Central Valley section, as a result of the federal funding, is expected to be completed by the end of 2018. That's the target for completing that project section. We expect to have environmental clearance in the Northern California section from San Francisco to the Central Valley Wise by the end of 2017, and then look to get into a design build contract as soon thereafter to make the Northern California connection. The kinds of travel times that we're looking at in terms of, I mentioned shrinking the state, San Francisco to San Jose in 30 minutes, San Francisco to Fresno in 90 minutes, San Jose to Fresno in just an hour. So really changing the opportunity for mobility in California, and really changing the perspective of business in terms of thinking about a station like the downtown Fresno station and revitalizing that city center and that station, looking to that station as an activity center, as many of the stations are around the world. Shortening that travel time really creates the opportunity not just for workers who live in the Central Valley to come to the Silicon Valley and work at those companies in the Silicon Valley. It also changes the model for those companies themselves to consider beginning to locate in Central Valley locations and diversifying those economies more effectively and allowing for more development of economic opportunity at those station cities than they currently enjoy today. High-speed rail investment in California, while high-speed rail itself is the centerpiece, really is about statewide rail modernization. It's about ensuring that the existing systems, the Altamont Corridor Express, the Capital Corridors, the San Joaquin system, the Metrolink system in Southern California, have the opportunity to improve their existing systems, expand their existing systems in ridership, and connect more effectively to future high-speed rail systems. So it really is about improving the entire system of mobility with rail by improving the existing rail as we develop the high-speed system. So we've invested in other programs. In this case, the Caltrain Modernization Program, we're providing $600 million, roughly half the cost of fully electrifying the Caltrain corridor from San Francisco to San Jose. And high-speed rail will operate in a blended configuration with Caltrain commuter trains between San Francisco and San Jose. So high-speed trains will be operating on the existing Caltrain commuter tracks. Those tracks will be improved to accommodate operation for both high-speed rail and Caltrain at roughly 110 miles an hour, improve station connections. We'll have a direct connection into the Transbay Terminal in downtown San Francisco, and have a terrific multimodal connection at the Diridon Station in San Jose. The Caltrain corridor itself is roughly 51 miles. As I mentioned, a blended system. The stations included in the corridor are the Transbay Terminal, the 4th and King Station, Also in downtown San Francisco, the Millbrae Station making a strong connection to San Francisco International Airport. We're looking at the possibility of a mid-peninsula station option somewhere in the Redwood City or even Mountain View area, and then ultimately at the San Jose Diridon Station. And San Jose Diridon, in fact, will have more modal connections than even the Trans-Bay Terminal. South of that, extending from San Jose Diridon south to Gilroy and then ultimately east to Merced, we will be operating largely through the 20.9 miles of right-of-way through the city of San Jose, and then into the more rural areas in Morgan Hill, Gilroy, and out along Highway 152 through the Pacheco Pass. We'll have roughly 12 miles of tunnel through the Pacheco Pass, and then connecting ultimately to the Central Valley system. I mentioned some of those other investments in regional systems. We've committed over $145 million to BART, to San Francisco Muni, to the Capital Corridor, as I mentioned, the San Joaquins and the Altamont Corridor Express, all aimed at improving those systems so they can function more effectively today and connect more effectively to high-speed rail in the future. I mentioned having worked with San Jose and the PRT project that San Jose had been considering. This is an older map of what we had in mind, but Diridon Station provides an extraordinary opportunity for making an effective last-mile connection and really finding ways to utilize the land use around the station to its highest best use. The city of San Jose has been engaged in a Diridon area master plan process for several years now. We've committed $600,000 to helping them complete that station area planning process. And part of that evaluation is going to include a look at the connectivity between Diridon Station and the resources that are available just under 2 miles away at the San Jose Mineta International Airport, resources like parking and rental car facilities, brand new rental car facilities, and other resources that are available for high-speed rail traveler use that won't need to be replicated in and around the Diridon Station, where there's land available for commercial, retail, and other development that is a much higher best use than a sea of parking or a parking garage or other resources that are so accessible. And a system like PRT can make the connection from Diridon, make that roughly 2-mile connection, and really connect more effectively with other resources in and around the airport. So done creatively, done thoughtfully, there's an opportunity to really maximize that connectivity option and taking it well beyond just a shuttle bus from Diridon Station out to the airport, really maximizing what's there and creating other opportunities for connectivity in and around the airport and at Diridon Station. So this has been consideration for some time, but something that the city of San Jose has really been a leader on and spent very thoughtful and committed time and resources to working on this notion, and they're still working on this, and we look forward to working with them as we get closer to fully environmentally clearing the project section between San Francisco and San Jose and looking at the follow-on development of what is expected to be a very vital downtown multimodal transportation facility. The BART system will be in an underground configuration at Diridon. There's already light rail and buses and interregional buses and Caltrain and Altamont and Amtrak and a whole host of other rail services that already serve Diridon. So it's a very natural hub of activity for this kind of a program to really come to the fore. Just briefly, I mentioned why start in the Central Valley. I'll give a quick overview on the statewide program. We can get to some questions. The Central Valley section will really serve as the backbone of the statewide system and allow us to test and certify the system to ensure that the California high-speed system can operate at 220 miles an hour. It's also creating jobs today in a very economically challenged part of California and looking at developing the system in the most cost-efficient and effective way possible. The bids for the Central Valley construction came in almost $100 million under the engineer's estimate, so we're already finding ways to reduce the overall budget of constructing high-speed rail in California. I mentioned the construction packages. The first one is roughly 29 miles between Madera and Fresno. Construction packages 2 and 3 extend another 65 miles, and so on. As the construction packages add on, we will complete the expanse between Merced and Bakersfield and then look both north and south, which by that time will have completed the environmental review for those project sections, and we'll be able to move forward with them as well. In Southern California, we're looking at connectivity there as well, creating grade separations, looking at station improvements in Palmdale and Burbank and LA Union Station, an important connection in Southern California. Jobs have always been a centerpiece of an infrastructure project like this. Certainly large infrastructure projects generate significant economic activity. The U.S. Conference of Mayors has pointed out that high-speed rail will add roughly $4.3 billion to the L.A. regional economy in Southern California, roughly 55,000 jobs by 2035. In the Bay Area, Caltrain electrification alone, not even the ancillary improvements for future high-speed service, but Caltrain electrification alone creates 9,600 jobs and generate roughly $2.5 billion in economic activity by allowing the opportunity to expand the already 60,000 riders a day who ride Caltrain. They expect that to get to 100,000 riders by 2020. And a broad spectrum of jobs, really. On the construction side, planners of the transportation and environmental and urban variety, engineers, managers, surveyors, estimators, the whole spectrum of staff necessary to put together a project of this magnitude, as well as post-construction. There's going to be ongoing operation at stations up and down California, roughly 24 stations throughout California that will have entire cities of people teaming together to operate the system as an activity center. And really the goal is that in very much like the European and Asian models for station activity, we look to the stations to be activity centers beyond just the opportunity to catch a train or make a connection, really to make it a destination point excuse me, for the local community. One of the primary goals that the authority has had has been small business participation in the development of the high-speed rail program in California, looking for ways to ensure that California small business can participate meaningfully in the development of California's largest project. To date, we have over 240 small businesses that have participated. The authority has a 30% small business goal, and it really is more of a mandate. It's an expectation that all of the primes that we work with throughout the life of the project will meet or exceed that 30% small business goal, again, with a mind toward ensuring that California business has an opportunity to participate meaningfully. In terms of the point that the previous speakers both made, that PRT's time has come and gone, I would tend to disagree with that notion for this very reason, because PRT is very much in the same space as high-speed rail is, and high-speed rail is getting its largest boost from the next generation. The millennials are really looking at finding ways to take transit, finding other ways to move around their communities, to get their business done, finding ways to not have a car, whether it's Uber and Lyft or transit or buses or bicycles, or finding ways to make that last mile connection. The next generation is really focusing on that, and we have a very strong commitment to reaching out to the millennials through our I Will Ride program and encouraging their participation in the understanding and development of high-speed rail and really the advocacy for high-speed rail. And so that's where I see the opportunity for us to press on and continue to find ways to implement the vision for both high-speed rail and PRT and ATNs, is that that next generation has not been colored by the past in terms of that time has come and gone, because that's certainly been said of high-speed rail. And like most large infrastructure projects, high-speed rail has faced its challenges. Large transformative projects have never been easy. Ansel Adams, no less an icon than Ansel Adams, once called the Golden Gate Bridge an upside-down rat trap that will mar the bay. In fact, he said, if you put a bridge in the mouth of the Golden Gate, you'll forever destroy the view of the Marin Headlands. The Golden Gate Bridge was sued over 2,000 times. And that was in the days before the California Environmental Quality Act. So we haven't been sued nearly that much, so we have a lot of bandwidth on that score. Like the High-Speed Rail project, the BART project here in the Bay Area was once called the Train to Nowhere. And can anyone imagine the 400,000 riders a day that ride BART to and from work and other destinations? Having those folks be on a freeway somewhere here in the Bay Area had we not pursued BART. The High-Speed Rail project passed the legislature, its funding component passed the legislature by 1 vote. So did the University of California system, so did the California State Water Project, all worthwhile projects that have established and really sustained California for many decades. I had the privilege of working for a member of the legislature when I began my career, and then Assemblywoman Delane Easton, who used to represent a portion of the East and South Bay. And she'd begin many of her public comments with an old saw, an old saying about California, and it went, "So sing my friends, be blithe, be gay, or weep my friends with sorrow. What California is today, the rest will be tomorrow." And through projects like this, California has established a history of legacy investments and legacy projects that have sustained California meaningfully for decades. High-speed rail is the next in that list of investments. PRTs and ATNs can be the next in that list of investments that will allow us to continue to develop and grow California and allow us to sustain California for generations to come. And with your help, we'll be able to do just that. Thank you for your time.